Well, hello everyone, this is Gregory Zelfand, and let's get started with SharePoint Hacks webinar. So folks, before we begin, just a couple of very brief administrative announcements. So first of all, this webinar is recorded, and there will be a video file posted to my YouTube channel immediately after the session. So in case, if I will be going too fast for you, or in case you want to reference it later, share the video with your colleagues, you will be able to do so. There will be the recording will be posted to my YouTube channel, and you can access it by clicking the link from the slide deck. So another thing I want to mention is that usually when I deliver my webinars, usually the topics I cover are kind of generic. What we're going to be covering today, all the different tips and tricks. Some of them might not necessarily be available or work in your environment. I realize that some of you are running on SharePoint Online. Some of you have SharePoint on premises or running on older versions of SharePoint. If you are running in SharePoint Online, Office 365, you don't need to worry about anything. All the tricks we're going to cover today are available in your environment. But in case if you are running different, other flavors of SharePoint, some of the tricks might not necessarily be available. And I'll try to point that out as we proceed through the demonstration. I do have a slide deck available for you, the one I'm displaying on the screen right now. You can actually download it on my from the handouts section during the next hour. And in case if you cannot download it or miss the download during the next hour, the slide deck will also be available on my SlideShare account. Also, we do have a full session today. This is a very popular topic, so that means everyone is on mute. However, I do want to keep this session informal. So if you have a question on anything we're covering today, just pretty much type it into the chat window, and I will be more than happy to answer that. And hopefully, we do have a lot of material to cover, but hopefully we'll have a few minutes at the end for Q&A. And lastly, if you have a specific question related to your particular situation or environment, just go ahead and send me an email, and I will be providing my contact information at the very end. All right. So for those of you who have not attended my previous webinar or training sessions, just a quick introduction. My name is Greg Zelfand. I'm an independent SharePoint consultant, and what I do for a living, I help organizations migrate to SharePoint Online and Office 365, and I help those organizations configure and adapt SharePoint according to industry best practices. The unique thing about me is that everything that I do for my clients is out of the box. I do not utilize any third-party tools or custom coding, and the tips and tricks we're going to be covering today are all out of the box tips and tricks. So there is no, you don't need to be a developer to do what we're going to be covering today. And as I already mentioned, I help clients migrate to SharePoint, I consult on best practices, and of course I do lots and lots of training. All right, so this is an agenda for today. We are going to cover those 10 different topics. And I do realize that, some of you're probably already familiar with some of them, but hopefully you will be able to learn some new tips and tricks today. I will come back to this slide quite often just to make sure we are staying on time and staying according to agenda. But in my slide deck, what I've done is for every tip that I listed, I actually provided very detailed instructions on how to do a particular trick in SharePoint. I'm not going to be referring to the slide deck too much during the live demonstration. But you can definitely check this out in your leisure time and follow the instructions if you wish. Once again, you can download the slide deck from the handouts section in your control panel. All right. So let's start with the first one. So this is the 10 tips we're going to cover. Let's start with the first one, and that's called Quick Edit. Once again, I will come back to this slide to make sure we stay on top of the agenda. So the first trick we're going to cover is Quick Edit. Now, here's what I'm talking about. Number one complaint I usually hear from users is, and this is specifically for the cases where you use metadata, that it just takes too much time to tag things in SharePoint. And it is a little bit more user-friendly with the new document library experience, but still, if you upload, let's say, a bunch of documents, and by the way, hopefully you know that by now that you can actually drag and drop things into SharePoint, so we're not going to cover that. But if I want to tag things, like in my case, for example, I have a library of documents, and I have all these different 4 or 5 columns that I created, custom metadata columns. If I want to tag things, it might take a lot of time, right? Each document has its own kind of information panel window, and it does take a long time, might take a long time for me to tag things. There is a cool trick that you can use, and that's called quick edit. And here it is. So here's my library. Let's assume I drag and drop a bunch of documents. I'm ready to tag them now. All you have to do is just press quick edit button, and this opens up your library all list in this Excel-like mode. And what you can do here is pretty much, tag things according to whatever property. So I already have things tagged, but let's say, what, I want this to be, a different document type or something. So I've done this. So I uploaded a bunch of invoices or document types, budget, and all I have to do is just drag and drop, you see? And you just grab the cell at the bottom of just like in Excel in the lower right-hand corner, and drag and drop. Let me just show you here because I don't have anything filled in here. So here is an empty one. And let me just grab it, and let me actually fill it in completely. Done. I'm done in a matter of seconds. All right, so if I am uploading maybe 50, 100 documents at once, and they all belong to the same metadata, you can easily tag things pretty much in a matter of seconds. Once you're all set and done, you have to make sure you click the done button. It's almost like a save button, and we're done. Everything is nicely tagged. Now, one thing I want to point out, sometimes you might say, well, I don't have quick edit button. And the reason you don't have quick edit button appear is because you are not in what I call a flat list view. You have to be in the view that is not grouped. You see, this is the view that is not grouped. If I go to one of my group views, you see I'm grouping by document type. In this case, you see my quick edit button is gone. So make sure you are, usually that would be your kind of all documents view, the default view, but make sure it's this flat list view. All right. Now, for those of you who are running in the older versions of SharePoint or are using what's called the classical document library experience, the quick edit command is still available. Here it is. So here's how the library looks like in the old experience. Just click this library tab, quick edit. Same thing. All right. And yeah, I'm not sure, probably it's taken some time to load, but the button is available over here. So let me just repeat. Yeah, here we go. It opened it in Excel-like mode. All right. So once again, make sure though that make sure that you are using the what's called the flat list view. So that's the quick edit. And let's proceed now with the next trick. The next one is version history. And by the way, I want to mention this quick edit thing. I showed you with the example with the document library, but it is available on pretty much on any list. It could be a custom list, a task list, issues log, whatever whatever list you have. It's not necessarily a document library where it's available. All right. So the next trick is version history or version control. And in my opinion, it's an extremely powerful feature that is available in SharePoint. For those of you who are in SharePoint Online, you really don't need, in document libraries, using document libraries, you really don't need to do much because the version history is enabled by default in SharePoint Online document libraries. But the idea is that essentially, as you upload documents, as you make changes, physical changes to the content of the document or change metadata, the history is kept. So let me go ahead and, for this document, let's just change a piece of metadata. And let's just change the document type to something else. Let me just, I don't know, procedure, doesn't matter. Okay? So here we go. I just changed the document. Let's see what the version history is. To access the version history, you can pretty much right-click on the document or do the 3 dots, the ellipses, but version history right here. And you see all the changes that happened to the document from the time I initially uploaded back here to the time we just made the change over here. And the beauty about this is that first of all, you can access the previous version. So as long as you keep your file name the same, you are going to have this constant log of, essentially constant, consistent audit history of what happened to the document. By clicking on any of the links here, you can access the previous version of the document. You can also see, in case if metadata has changed, who did it and when. And let's say, let's say we are working in a team on a proposal. I made a change, some of you made a change, and then, what we figured out, what we were not supposed to make all these changes. No problem at all. You can easily take one of the previous versions. So we are right now at version 63. And I realized we should not have really done that. So I can take the previous version, one of the previous versions, and say restore. And of course, it's asking us if we want to do that. And it's now taken and took version 62 and made another version, created another version called 64. So now this document is the latest and greatest. All right, but this is extremely powerful, and I'm not sure. I trust that some of you have already been using this feature, but it is extremely powerful feature. And once again, you really don't need to do anything. For those of you who are in SharePoint Online, version history is enabled for document libraries. That is not the case for custom lists. If you create like contact lists or any other list, you have to enable version history manually. But let me show you how to do that, just in case if it's not enabled. Let's say you create a new document library, a new list or whatever, you want to make sure it's enabled. So just go behind the scenes, library settings, and over here, versioning settings, and make sure this box is checked right here. Like I said, for document libraries, it should be, but in case if it's not, make sure it's checked. And this will create a version for your list or library. Question from Tiffany that I just got through Q&A. What are the best practices? How many versions of the document should be kept? Tiffany, really, I don't think there are any best practices. If you're on SharePoint Online, I would just keep them unlimited. You can definitely keep version history to the max. You see, you can actually specify how many versions to keep. But you know what? Right now, I mean, in SharePoint Online, you get 1 terabyte of storage, so I probably wouldn't worry about it. Question from Tatiana, is there a way to compare text within each version to see what has changed? Yes, Tatiana, there is a way to do that. It is more of Word functionality than SharePoint functionality. What you need to do is open your document essentially in Microsoft Word, and there is a version compare, right? I forget where it is in Word, but there is a version like compare feature, and you can actually pick and choose which versions you want to compare right within Word application. Okay. A question from Shelley, if you delete a document from a library but later upload another document with the same name, do they retain the same version history, or are they considered different documents? Great question, Shelley. They are considered different documents at that point. All right, so yeah, your file name is your kind of unique name, but once you delete it, right, I mean, everything that happened to that document is gone, and then, the new document you upload with the same name, it kind of starts from scratch. Great question. All right, let's move on. The next trick I want to show you is ability to edit documents online. And so this feature, for those of you using older versions of SharePoint, might not necessarily be, will not be available, but let me show you what I mean. When you when you click on a document, you kind of get the same the same feature. But when I right-click on the document, and it could be Word or Excel, you see, it gives me, or even PowerPoint, it gives me 2 choices: open in Excel Online or open in Word, or open in Excel. Or in this case, if I do open the Word document, Word Online or open in Word. What is the difference? Well, if I do open in Word, it will essentially take my installed Word application and I have to essentially have the Word application installed on my machine, and you know how that works. What I can also do is do open in Word and in Word Online. And let me tell you the scenario. So maybe I'm traveling, and I forgot my laptop, whatever. I need to access my document in SharePoint or OneDrive, and I just don't happen to have, I'm logging in maybe from hotel's computer, and they don't have Word or Excel or installed on their machine. And I really have to access this document. No problem at all. All you have to do is just open the document in Word Online or Excel Online or PowerPoint Online, whatever it is. And you see, here is my document, and I can make some changes right within browser. And what I did was I essentially, my document is opened right in the browser. Okay, my document is open right in the browser. I don't need to have the installed applications at this point. I obviously do not get the full-blown Word or Excel, application, all the functionalities that I have. For example, in Excel, if you're looking to do pivot tables, pivot charts, you really need to open it in native Excel file. But if you are going to make some quick changes, formatting changes and all that stuff, I mean, the functionality is there. And the most beautiful part about this is that there is no save button. So everything is auto-saved. So let me type some text again. You see, it says it probably was very quick. I don't know if you noticed, as I make some changes. You see it says saving on top. Everything is saved by default. So all I have to do is just close my browser and I'm done. No need to worry if the changes have been saved or not. They have. All right, so that's what's a question from Dmitry. Does the open-end client application work in 2016 in Chrome browser? I think it should, Dmitry. I have the 2013 version installed, and I'm using Google Chrome, and everything is fine. Yeah. Another thing about Word Online and Excel, I don't know if you noticed, but if I were to open this in Word and open it in Word Online, the performance is much better if I do the online thing. It's much quicker because it doesn't have to load my application. So if you want to make some quick changes, just do this, and in a matter of seconds you can make your changes, and no need to save it. Just close the browser, you're done. So extremely powerful feature. All right, the next thing I want to show you is the list and library search box. And in my opinion, once again, extremely powerful tip. And let me show you what I mean by that. So here we go. I have my document library. And a bunch of documents, and they all contain different sorts of information, some metadata. And let's say I now want to search. I want to search within this library for some content. The search box, like with the old library, I will show you in a second with the older libraries where the search box is, but with the new library, they moved it into upper left-hand corner. So it's kind of easy to miss it. But here we go. This is our search box, and this search box only searches in this particular library. And if I type some stuff in, some keyword, start typing things in, it actually picks up on lots of different things. It picks up on the file name, but it picks up on metadata. So you see it picked up some documents that do not necessarily have the word agenda in my file name. So it picked them up for one of the two reasons. Maybe it picked them up because I tagged them as such. You see here is this document, you see? Right here, it picked it up because of the metadata. I have this agenda in metadata. Another reason it could pick it up is because maybe inside of this document, I have a keyword that spells out agenda. So it picks up on the information, on the keywords. It searches within the files themselves as well. So extremely powerful. If you're looking for some, something, some content, it really searches by default out of the box for any one of the three things. All right. So extremely powerful. So what you can do, you can use this search box in combination with metadata. So maybe you can do a filtered view and filter your items accordingly. First, to kind of bring down the number of documents to search in, and then you do your keywords thing. So, but extremely powerful. So let me show you the same in the older style document library. Here's the search box. Here's how the search box appears with the older library, and let me start typing things in. And by the way, you don't need to spell out the whole word. If you want to do the wildcard search, you can do that as well. So here we go. Instead of typing in the word vehicle, I'm going to just type in a few letters. I'm going to do the star, which is the wildcard character, and hit search. Let's see. He turned up this couple of documents. So it did pick up this document because probably of the file name, but there is nothing, no metadata for vehicle, no file name. It probably picked it up because somewhere inside of this PDF, there is a keyword that, matches this criteria. So extremely, extremely powerful, feature for you to use. Oh, I have a lot of questions. Question from Boris: when should we use Word versus, so I guess related to previous topic, versus Word Online to make changes? Boris, it's really just up to you. I, personally would use Word Online just because it's much quicker. But then again, if you are modifying Excel and you are doing some formulas or pivot charts, you must use the application. You will not be able to do it online. Okay, some of you folks are asking very specific questions related to your particular environment. So if you don't mind, for time constraints, I will skip that. But feel free to send me an email. Send me an email. I will be more than happy to answer that. Question from Dmitry: when the new version of the document will be saved? So yeah, anytime, Dmitry. I guess your question is related. The question is, when will the new version be saved? The way version history works, anytime you modify the document. So if you just look at the document, you're not going to get a new version history. But anytime you make a change about the document, it could be just a drop-down, metadata drop-down change, or if you just change a keyword within the file, or if you just open the document and hit Save button, every time you do that, it saves another version. Once again, Dmitry, if you don't mind, I'm going to skip you have a very specific question about, I guess, your environment. Feel free to reach out to me offline. Okay, great question, folks. All right, the next one, number 5. I actually have struggled on how to name it appropriately, so maybe you can help me out here. But I call this tip and trick, in browser drag and drop. Let me explain. And maybe, hopefully, some of you will help me. If you have a better name, please type it into the chat window. I will use it in future. But let me explain to you what I mean by that. So let me go to my so first of all, I hope it's not a secret that in SharePoint Online, you can actually drag and drop things. You can actually drag and drop, files and folders right into the browser. So I hope you know that. But let me show you what else is available. So here's my document library. I have a bunch of folders, files and folders. So here we go. Let's see. Do I have anything here? No, I don't. Let's see if I have anything. Okay, I guess it's just empty. All right, never mind. Let me do this. Let me just drag and drop a few files in here. Let me just, probably put them in here. Just a second. I'm going to grab some files and folders. I'm just going to upload them. All right, perfect. So this is the drag and drop. Hopefully you knew that was available. So I just drag and drop a bunch of files and folders right into SharePoint. But here's another thing you can do. Say I need to change the location of this file. You know what I mean? In like a folder. Like let's say this file and this file, I need to file them somewhere else. What you can do now is just drag them and drop them right into another folder right within the browser. You see? So now let me change the location. So instead of putting it into this folder, I'm going to stick them into this folder. So now it did, I don't know if you noticed, it said moving. So let me click here. Here we go. Here are my files. And now I can move them to a folder I really meant to move it in. Here we go. Done. You can do the same to folders as well. So let's say I want to put this folder inside of this folder, just drag and drop. So in the old days, the number one request was, well, how do I, the minute I usually would show or train, my clients, let's say on SharePoint, the first question I would get, well, how can I open it in Windows Explorer? You no longer need, I would argue that you no longer need Windows Explorer capability in SharePoint because you can drag and drop things right into the, right in the browser. But let me show you something else. It also works with metadata. And here's the trick. So once again, here's my document library with, I created like what, 3, 5 columns of metadata, and I actually created so each of my documents is tagged against each of these fields, including the status. I have the status field because it happens to be a project management site. So, and you know what? By phase. Let's do it by phase, not status. So here are my documents. I have few documents in the closing phase, few documents in the execution phase, and few documents in initiation phase. And you know what? We are ready now. I'm making some changes. You know what? This couple of documents, they are now ready to be moved to execution phase from the initiation phase. Obviously, the option number 1 for me would be to click on each document and change metadata. But here's the trick. Just like with folders, you can actually move things around without and change metadata on the fly. So let's say this couple of documents, we made progress. So I'm going to move them from one phase, from this phase to another. I check my documents, just drag and drop. You see it highlights the sections as I keep my left finger on the left button of my mouse. And now I'm ready to move them here. And it did the move, you see? It updated. So now as I refresh, well, here we go. It actually automatically refreshed. Here we are. Those 2 documents have been moved to the new phase. And I didn't have to do the quick edit. I did not have to do the information panel. So definitely a time saver. Let me just reload it. And here we are. These are the documents we just moved. Okay? So definitely a very, very, I think in my opinion, this is just an amazing trick. This is just an amazing trick, that is available. Definitely a time saver. A question from Tatiana: can you drag and drop between libraries and in a site? No, you cannot. This is one of the functionalities that is still kind of, I guess, missing. But I know for sure that this functionality is coming. So I think it's going to be a matter of few months, and you will actually be able to move files and folders between OneDrive and SharePoint libraries. Between libraries and different sites. So I think by that point, we will definitely be able to say we no longer need Windows Explorer. Question from Denise. I guess there are a lot of questions related to version history. Is there potential conflict between editors, like when you try to save in different, like when you try to edit Word online or Word in the browser, is there any potential conflict? Well, there will be really no conflict because any change is saved automatically, right, or with the save button. So every change, Denise, is logged via the version history. There should really be no conflict. Okay, perfect. Let's move on. I think we still have a few more tricks to cover. The next one I want to show you is related to security. So let's switch gears a little bit. The next trick I want to show you is related to security. And the trick is about how to look up permissions for a security group. Let me show you what I mean. So here is my team site. And I followed the best practices on my team site, and what I did, I created a bunch of, I have 3 different groups on my, I have a group for members, group for owners, and group for visitors, each with its own permission level. And each of the groups has its own set of people. Here we go. So so I have my group called Project Site Members, and I have the 3 individuals in my group. And now, as an admin or maybe a site owner, I'm wondering, I'm wondering what this group of people, what this group also has access to in my environment. It's great that they have access to this particular site, but I'm wondering if anyone else is using my group, my security group, if those people have access to something else. And you can do that in SharePoint. So what you need to do, you need to navigate to the specific group, essentially click on the group, which I already did, and then go on the settings, view group permissions. Let's click. Let's see what will happen. Look at this. It gives me almost like a sitemap of all the different sites and web parts and documents that this particular group, security group, has access to. So in this case, I'm on this team site right now, so it obviously, this group has access to this site. Then apparently I have some, I think I broke some inheritance, some permissions for some of the web parts. That's why there appears to be kind of unique access for some documents and web parts. But then this group also has access to some other sites. So if you created a security group and maybe, let's say, I don't know, human resources department or accounting department, and you added some individuals in, and you want to quickly see what this group of people also has access to in my environment, you can do this trick and you will be able to see what the group has access to in this site collection. This only works on the site collection. So if you created that group all over again in a different site collection, it's not going to work. It only shows you the access that you would have, in this particular site collection. Now, that's another reason, by the way, in case one of the best practices, and I blogged a lot about that, but one of the best practices is obviously to always add individuals, your employees, your users to a security group. Never add them outside of the security group. Because if you do, you will not be able to do what we just did. You can only do this, like if you add up individuals here separately outside of the group, you will, that trick will not work. This trick only works at the security group level. All right. All right, Denise, you're asking very specific questions, so please send me an email, and I will be more than happy to answer that offline. Okay, the next trick we're going to cover is drop-down navigation. And what I mean by that is essentially this thing right here. And let me unfortunately, some of the navigation you probably noticed as well is kind of broken with the new document library experience, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be fixed soon. But this is what I'm talking about, you see. How to do this, how to achieve this drop-down navigation. There are actually 4 ways to set up navigation in SharePoint, and you can check my blog post if you're interested to learn more about that. But let me show you the most easiest, the most basic way to set up drop-down navigation. Here's how you do it. So you go to your site, and let's say this is the site where I would set up my drop-down navigation in. And all you have to do is just click Edit Links, and then create a link. So let's say I'm creating a link for all my departments. And for address, you can obviously paste the link. Let's skip that part. And here's another one. Let's do accounting. Perfect. And you know what, I want to organize my links. I want to have like a departments drop-down. So I'm going to do that. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. And then what you need to do is just drag things back and forth. So I'm going to move this over here. And then I'm going to, let me click save. Sometimes you're just a little bit cranky, but let me edit this again. And now all I have to do is just drag and drop. You see, it even tells you where you can drop things. And once again, drag and drop. And by the way, you don't need to, like, if this marketing was a sub-menu on the accounting, you can do that too, you see? So you can do something like this. Perfect. So within a few clicks, so the idea behind this is that you build your navigation at the very top, let's say a root of your site collection, so you only have to worry, about that once, and then you just, for all the sub-sites, you just inherit the navigation. So the idea is that your navigation will be consistent throughout your environment. So that was, there are a few other ways how to build a navigation. You can actually enable the term store functionality to build a navigation and stuff like that, but this is a little bit more advanced, so we're going to skip that. But definitely feel free to check out some of my blogs, and I do provide other means and more advanced ways to build your navigation. All right, let's cover the next tip, and that's called enterprise keywords. So what is this about? Now, for those of you who are following my blogs, you know that I'm a big advocate of metadata. And it's a great, in my opinion, it's a great way to organize information. Now, let's say, here's a scenario for you. Maybe you do love metadata too, just like I do, but you have no clue what metadata should be. You just don't know how to categorize things. You have hard time coming up with your columns and drop-down values and all that stuff. What you can do in that case is utilize functionality called enterprise keywords. And let me show you what that is. Essentially, enterprise keywords allows you to kind of offset or shift the task of metadata to your users. So with regular metadata, you have to pretty much create your columns and create your columns, create your drop-down fields, and populate all the different choices. And you do need to know how to organize things, etc. So it does take a little bit of prep work, etc. But with enterprise keywords, what you can do, you can just pretty much, like I said, offset this task to your employees. Let me show you how to do that. So let me go behind the scenes. And let's do this. You can do the enterprise keywords for any list or library, but obviously the obvious choices are the document library. So let's go there. And here is my document library. I obviously don't have, it's brand new, no documents, nothing. And I have few, out of the box metadata already, but that's no useful for me. So now what I need to do is I need to enable the enterprise keywords feature first. To do that, go behind the scenes. And then right here in the middle, you should see this option, enterprise metadata and keyword settings. All right, let's click that. And by default, this box is not going to be checked, so you kind of have to check the box. So essentially, we're telling SharePoint, yeah, we're interested, we want to enable that feature. Let's click OK. And let's see what will happen. It actually, and you probably did not notice, but it added another column for us called enterprise keywords right here. So now let's go ahead and upload some documents. And you know what, before we do that, I think it would be beneficial. It does not display this column to me, so I want to display this column first. So let's do it. So where is it? Right here. I want to display it. Perfect. Let's hide the modified byte. We don't care about that. Let's click OK. So here we go. Here is my library, my metadata, enterprise keywords metadata. Let me go ahead and upload a few documents. Once again, I'll grab a few files, upload, drag and drop. Perfect. Okay. Now, what I can do is, let me just take one file, and let's go ahead and tag things. Let's see what the experience will be. So here's how enterprise keywords work. The beauty about enterprise keywords, you can actually type in anything you want. With metadata you define for your users, let's say it's a document type or department dropdown or whatever it is, the user is only restricted to type it, choosing the values that you made available for them. With enterprise keywords, anything that you type in automatically becomes metadata. So let me type in, well, I already have red. Okay, let's do something else. Let's do mouse. I already have mouse. Okay, interesting. Okay, anyone else has any suggestions? All right, perfect. That's going to be our keyword. Type in. Now what happens, this keyword now became available for others to choose from. And by the way, I can pick from any other metadata. You see, if I type in, agenda, it does pick up the metadata from other fields as well. So the enterprise keywords, goes against the list of all the metadata that already exists in your environment. Plus, it gives you the ability for users to add their own metadata. Okay. So let's type in something like this, and apparently, yeah, I have a lot of keywords already. Okay. Okay, let's do this. Hopefully I spelled it right. Okay, so that becomes a keyword now. And I can tag things, any way I want. So let's see, white. Okay, perfect. Well, I guess we don't have white. So you see it's a random list of all the different tags, but any one of those things really become the choices for others. Yeah, I'm not sure what, I guess I maybe should have done a space or something, but anyway, let me see and reload it. I think I just did a space, an extra space or something. Okay. Yeah, I guess it didn't really save, so let me repeat it again. All right, perfect. Okay, so I think what it did, it added the fields, but it did not. Okay, perfect. So this keyword is not available. Perfect. All right. Yeah, I'm surprised. Oh, okay, I think I have an extra. That's why. Okay, perfect. I had an extra semicolon. Okay, so now I tagged it against two fields over here. So what that means is now this, if somebody else is tagging a different document, and they start typing in something that previous user typed in, it will become available. All right. So that's the idea behind this. Behind the enterprise keywords, that it's pretty much, allows your users to type in whatever they want, but it's a great way for you to see what, how users are tagging things. So if you notice, for example, you create a policy library, let's say a forms library or whatever, project documents, and you see, well, users seem to be tagging, to be liking those tags a lot. Maybe it's time for you to make them official and build your own metadata list using this field. So that's kind of the idea behind this. And, just like with regular metadata, I can easily, filter and sort things, just like with the regular metadata. And I'll show you, I'm not going to do it now, I'll show you in a second where the metadata is stored. So if you want to maybe remove some tags, etc., you have luxury to do that. Okay, let's see, I have some questions. Tiffany, question from Tiffany, did enterprise metadata keywords replace tags and notes? No, it's completely different, Tiffany. I know what you're referring to, but just for the sake of time, yeah, it's completely different. Question from Judy, is the enterprise keyword available in the classic view? Yes, it is, Judy. You just go behind the scenes, library settings, and it should be there. If it's not, it's probably something unique to your environment. Question from Tiffany, is there a place to see all the enterprise keywords that users have created? Yes, there is, and I'm going to show you, Tiffany, in a few minutes because I have something else related to metadata. Question from Mary. Okay, lots of questions on metadata. Question from Mary. So does it look for metadata tags in the whole site, in the whole environment? Yes. So if you, essentially all the tags go against, in one big pool of tags. And, whatever users type in on different sites, they will all go against the same pool of tags. So that's the idea behind them. Question from Shelly. Can you preload some enterprise keywords? Yes, you can. And once again, Tiffany and Shelly, you have a few questions on that, and I'll definitely demonstrate this to you in a few minutes. Okay, actually, and we are going to cover that now, managed metadata. So here's the thing, when you have a document library, let me go to my document library again, just some other document library. When you create your metadata column. So let's go ahead and create a metadata column. So library settings. Yeah, this panel, by the way, I know there was a question about classical view. This thing right here did not really change. I mean, it's the same screen, the same layout, same functionality for the layout, for the for the classical as well. So the enterprise keywords should be available. So let's go ahead and create a column. And usually when you do like a drop-down column, right, let's say a department list or something, or department name. Okay. And usually, right, you do the choice drop-down and you populate all your choices here. That's option number one. But the preferred way is to set up what's called the managed metadata, this option right here. And essentially, the way it works is that instead of defining your metadata choices right in kind of in this little window that you saw a minute ago, you define it in something that's called the term store. And term store is essentially your, think of a term store as one big pool of labels, key in tags that are available in your organization. I have published a few blog posts on the term store, so feel free to check them out. So I'm going to skip some of the administrative, things related to the term store. But to access the term store, you need to go to site settings, and you should see this term store management. You do need, a special, admin access. Just because you're a site owner or even a site collection admin, you do not have access by default to the term store. So you need to do it to kind of, have access defined separately. And what you can do is you can define all your tags in the term store. You see, I have defined my tags here, department, a department list, and maybe a list of document types. You have seen me use all of those things today. And so you might ask, well, why do you, I tried to sell you the idea of the term store and not the other way. Term store has lots of flexibility. For example, accounting. Maybe you call it accounting, and I call it accounts payable or something, or finance. What you can do, you can assign secondary labels. And I think I actually have an example. Here is my example that I already have defined. So statement of work. You see, you call it statement of work, I call it SOW. Okay, you call it RFQ, I call it a request for quotation. We call it different things. So what you can do, you can set up the secondary labels. And here's how it works. You can set up your secondary labels. So let me actually go back to my document library and show you what the end user experience will be. So let's say this is my SOW, and I want to tag it against SOW as an SOW document type, where it is, right here. Okay, so let's fix it. So by the way, and here's another beauty about the metadata term store thing. With the regular dropdown, you kind of have to click the dropdown box, menu, and choose the dropdown. With term store, you can just start typing it in. You see statement of work. I started typing it in, and it automatically. It's just a much better user experience. You get the kind of type ahead functionality. But let me show you another thing. I call it SOW, not statement of work. See what happens? Because I said statement of work and secondary label, I send the secondary label, it automatically picks that up too. So term store has a lot of great features, and we are probably not going to cover them all here. Like I said, I published a few blog posts on how to set up the term store and et cetera, et cetera. So definitely check it out. But another beautiful thing is you can actually build hierarchies. So let's say your accounting has, several different, sub-departments. Maybe one of them will be accounts receivable, another will be accounts payable. So you can actually build a hierarchy of labels as well, just like I'm doing now, you see? And it just allows you to build those smart kind of, multi-tier hierarchies and really break it down, for your users and organize your metadata the way you want. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So that is what's called the term store metadata. And when you define your, let me just show you very briefly, when you define your column, let's say you create a new column, essentially what you need to do, so obviously it's step number one, you need to define your metadata in the term store. Instead of choosing the choice field, you need to choose this manage metadata radio button, and then essentially point the column that you're creating and marry it together with a particular term set. You see, if I'm creating a department dropdown, list, then I will just marry it to this particular field. Okay, so very, very straightforward, to set up, and obviously there are lots and lots like pros as far as metadata is concerned. So if you are in love with metadata just like I am, I do consider that you seriously consider the term store functionality. Another beautiful thing about term store is that it's global. It's global to, if you have multiple site collections, it's global to all of your site collections. So it's literally a universal box with labels that you can use in your environment. Let me answer some of the questions related to enterprise keywords. Remember somebody, I think few people asked, what happens to all these keywords? Where are they stored? Over here. If you go into the term store, this is all of these things right here. This is metadata that I created manually. All the keywords, you see, all the different keywords, just a bunch of different keywords. Remember, I tapped in lacrosse. This is the keyword that essentially is available. So if you want to create your own ones, you just create your new keywords here. Or, if somebody typed in a keyword, maybe I don't want others to tag against it, you can actually go ahead and delete it. All right, so you do have full control over it. All right, let's see, I think we have a few questions. Question from Suresh, does enterprise keywords work with OneDrive for Business? No, Suresh, OneDrive for Business, which is your personal OneDrive, is all about files and folders, no metadata there. Question from David, is terms available in on-premises SharePoint? Absolutely. If you are using from SharePoint 2013 Foundation, David, it's not. You need to be using Enterprise Edition, and it should be available. Question from Mary, are the tags, metadata tags, case sensitive? No, they're not, Mary. No, you can, yeah, they're not case sensitive. Okay, folks, we have a few minutes left, and I want to make sure we finish this off, so I want to show you the metadata navigation. Let me explain to you what I mean first. All right, let me come back to my environment, this environment, and let me show you, just a second, okay, this link right here. Perfect. What I mean by metadata navigation is this thing right here. Right here, you see? So essentially, you can obviously create your groupings, grouped views and all that stuff and do the filtering, just like we did with using the columns. But if you want to have this left-hand side panel for, to search for your keywords, you can have that as well. I actually call this Amazon-style search. When you shop on the Amazon, which I do all the time, you have the, the filters on the left where you can filter, let's say you're buying shoes by size, by color, brand, and all that stuff. You pretty much can have the same experience in SharePoint. So instead of users kind of doing the filters and all that over here, you essentially have all the filters on the left-hand side, and as a user, all I have to do is just come in, type in or choose the tag, and filter my library or list accordingly. So how do we set it up? There are 2 steps involved. The first step, you do need to enable a certain feature in SharePoint, which is called metadata navigation. So you need to enable it at the site where your library or list resides. Go to Site Settings first, and then Manage Site Features. You have to do it manually for every site, so you kind of have to do it. And then one of the options will be metadata navigation and filtering. And I have already activated it, but by default it's not. So you just make sure you click the Activate button and give it a few seconds, and your feature will be enabled. So that's step number 1. The second step, go to the library where you want to enable your metadata navigation in, and go to Library Settings. All right, sorry, I'm trying to, because we're switching between new and old experience, it does look different. So Library Settings. And now, once you enable this feature called Metadata Navigation at the site level, you will see this little guy right here, Metadata Navigation Settings. And then from this point, you will have this window. And then from this point, all you have to do is just add your filters. Essentially, by default, it will look something like this, right? And then all you have to do is just add whatever filters you want to filter on and push them to the right side. That's all. And click OK. All right. Now, one thing I want to caution you, not, and something to be aware of, and there was a reason why I did it in this library. The metadata navigation and the new document library experience are not compatible. So what that means, if you have your nice document library that looks like this, with essentially the new document library experience in SharePoint Online, and once you enable the metadata navigation feature, and once you configure your filters, your library will automatically switch to classical SharePoint. So your library will no longer look like this, it will look like this. It will automatically switch to classical look and feel. This is how it behaves for the moment. That's why, you see this library does not look like, any other library in my environment, because the minute I enabled my metadata navigation, it kind of defaulted to the older look and feel. All right. So the minute you do that, just something to keep in mind. But other than that, I mean, it is definitely a very nice, feature. You can use metadata navigation on any list of libraries. So maybe you have a custom list or list of whatever issues log or whatever it is. You can do the same thing. All right. Perfect. Let's see what we have left. So I think we covered this. So we covered all the tips and tricks today. Once again, folks, I do have for every tip in my slide deck, I do have I do provide the instructions, and I do provide kind of the business benefit, why this trick is important or might be important to your end user. So I definitely encourage that you check this out. And here's my contact information. I do encourage you to check out my my blog posts, which provide detailed instructions on how to do most of the things we did today. And like I said in the beginning, the recording of this webinar will be available on my YouTube channel soon after we finish today's session. So check it out. And we do have a couple of minutes, so I want to see if there are any last-minute questions. All right. Question from Denise: is it possible to save that flat view before activating metadata? Well, Denise, you don't really need to save a flat view. The view, by default, the all documents view is kind of the flat list view. So unless you group it, unless you start messing around with that view, it's going to be flat forever. It is considered the best practice to kind of, anytime you need to group or sort and filter, you do need to create another view. Don't mess with the default view. Question from Suresh: how do you change Classic to New Experience? Suresh, if you're on SharePoint Online, that is done automatically, and by now everyone is supposed to have the new look and feel. In case if you see the old look and feel, it's probably either you're not on SharePoint Online or your admins have disabled this feature globally. There is a way to do that, but you need to contact your IT administrative team. Yep. Okay. All right, I don't think I see any more questions. All right, folks, I think we're almost pretty much at the top of the hour. I really appreciate your attendance. I really appreciate all the great questions you had today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in my future webinars. Thank you very much for attending my session, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.